Hey everyone, on today's episode of Nintendo Switchcraft, we're going to finally talk about hands-on with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. There are some new retro games on their way to the Nintendo Switch. I realize now that new and retro, that doesn't really go together, but it does. All right, it does. And we've got some more leaks thanks to rating boards over in Taiwan, and we'll talk about that stuff as well. If you didn't know, Nintendo Switchcraft is a show all about Nintendo and all of the Nintendo news that you can shake a stick at. If you're listening to the podcast and you want to check out the video version, head on over to my YouTube channel at nerdnest.tv. And if you are on the video version right now, don't forget to click all of the YouTube buttons. And then you can use your favorite podcast player and search for Nintendo Switchcraft so that you can take the show wherever you go and maybe listen to it while you're shoveling some snow. And I didn't mean to rhyme there. That was just a lucky happenstance. Let's get started with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Super Mario 3D World and more about Bowser's Fury. If you have not played Super Mario 3D World, it's a game that was originally on the Wii U, and it's kind of a sequel to Super Mario 3D Land, which was on the 3DS. These are games they're 3D Mario games, but you don't control the camera. So basically the camera is on this fixed point, and it's pointing only in one direction, and you've got all of these little theme parks almost. You go into the little theme park, you do the thing that you want to do, you got to get to the end, you jump on the flagpole, and then kicks you back out to the overworld for you to go on and find the next little theme park. It's a ridiculously good game. I played the hell out of it on the Wii U. I anticipate that I will be playing a whole bunch of it on the Nintendo Switch as well. You can also play online with other people. I have not tried that yet. I am looking forward to trying that out. Hopefully, it's not the disaster that I anticipate that it's going to be, because it is using Nintendo's older online system rather than the new one, which we talked about last episode. That's coming along with Monster Hunter Rise. That's all I really want to say about Super Mario 3D World. I want to spend the rest of the time for this game talking about the other half of the game, which is Bowser's Fury. So Bowser's Fury does not play like Super Mario 3D World. It plays much more akin to a normal 3D Mario game, where you have to control the camera. The camera's much closer to Mario, and so you have a tendency to put it behind Mario and run around in this third-person action game, instead of having a very, very zoomed out perspective where you can't control the camera at all. And I do prefer this kind of 3D Mario game to the theme parkiness of Super Mario 3D World. But both parts of the game are really good Mario games. They really are. So the premise behind Bowser's Fury is that Bowser has like some kind of black goop on him, and he's acting like a bigger jerk than he usually does. So much so that Bowser Jr. is like, Mario, you got to help me deal with him. And this is a much more open world Mario game. You have a series of islands that you can go between. You ride on Nessie, which is this big swimming dinosaur, to get from one place to the next. And then you get off. When you get to the island, there are various cat shines, which is just, a cat themed shines for you to get. And the whole thing is very cat focused. So like the trees have cat ears. All of the enemies have cat ears. Everything is very cat focused. Mario spends a lot of time as Cat Mario. And then there are actual real cats that are in the area as well that will come over and like hang out with you and be like, oh, look at this, he's such a nice friend, let's hang out with Mario. Some other gameplay changes from Super Mario 3D World, other than just the fact that it's a completely different style of 3D Mario game, is in 3D World, if you push up on the D-pad, it will give you a power-up that you basically have in storage. So let's say I pick up the Super Bell. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I pick up the Super Bell, turn into Cat Mario. I pick up Fire Flower. It'll take that bell and put it into storage. And then now I'm Fire Mario. And if I want to switch back over to the bell, I just push up on the D-pad and it spits out that bell. I can grab it and then move on. And then it would put the Fire Flower in storage. The same kind of thing happens in Bowser's Fury. However, and this is really cool, and I kind of hope that they do this stuff more in the future, is because you've got Bowser Jr. with you, because he's with you, you can store more of those things. So you can carry up to 5 of each power-up. So you've got like, and I'm not going to go through all of the power-ups, but you've got like Fire Flowers, Cat Bells, the Boomerang, etc. You can carry like 5 of those things. And so when you push the up button on the D-pad, the game stops and pauses for a second, and then you can select which power-up you want. And it's Bowser Jr. then tosses that right on you, so you don't have to go chasing it, and you switch over into that that new power, and whatever power that you had on you at the time goes back into storage. Of course, if you get hit or if you take quote unquote damage in the game, you lose one of those power-ups, that whichever one you happen to have equipped at that time, but you can always get another one out. Another way to get a new power-up is you can just hold down, not down as in the direction, but you like hold the up direction on the D-pad. If you hold it for a moment, you will instantaneously get whatever power-up is selected instead of pausing the game and selecting that. The game centers around you going through and getting these cat shines, which are, it's just the MacGuffin, the collectible that you have to get. And then there'll be like a giant bell. I believe it's called I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it doesn't matter what it's called. So you have this giant bell that's covered in goop, and it will have like a number attached to it. It'll say you need this many cat shines to unlock this bell. And so you go around getting a bunch of cat shines. You as you get a cat shine, it like uncovers a lighthouse, and then the lighthouse shines on the bell, gets rid of the goop. Then you have that bell unlocked. And grabbing that bell turns you into like Super Saiyan Cat Mario with glowing fur, and it looks incredibly cool. You become an absolutely massive giant, absolutely huge giant Cat Mario, big enough for you to then fight against the giant Bowser who's covered in that goop. Let's talk about Bowser for a second. Most of the time when you're playing, he is just in his shell, which is covered in this goop, kind of floating off to the side. Every once in a while you can just turn the camera and you can see him. But then every once in a while a storm will happen, and he will then come out of his shell and then start attacking. And this is really cool because you have to get cover. You have to hide from him because he's so powerful. The only way that you can fight against him is if you have one of those mega bells, which turns you into like Super Cat Mario. If you don't have one of those at the time, then you just have to kind of wait it out and hide behind stuff, which is really cool. Like, it kind of amps up the quote unquote danger of Bowser, who's never really been that big of a threat to us. I think that's very, very cool. So you have to hide behind stuff, and some of the stuff that you can hide behind are these special Bowser blocks, which can only be broken by Bowser's attacks. So like he pops up, and then you start this search. You're like, okay, I got to find one of those Bowser blocks to hide behind so that I can break that and get whatever's inside. I think that's a really cool gameplay loop. So I haven't quite figured out what causes a storm to come and for him to start, wreaking havoc on the area. But after a while, even if you don't turn into Mega Cat Mario, then he'll just go back to doing his shell stuff, and then you can go back to the normal gameplay. overall, I think that it's very, very cool. I anticipate that it probably won't take very long to get through the Bowser's Fury part of the game. But honestly, it's like it's a full game in Super Mario 3D World, and then like a smaller part of a game in Bowser's Fury. And I do think it's worth okay. People always ask me, is it worth X dollars? And I don't like to say if something is worth X dollars. To me, even though I had already played it, it was worth X dollars for me to buy it. But then again, I do a Nintendo podcast, so I kind of need to talk about the really big releases. So I had to pick it up. Would I have picked it up if I didn't need to talk about it on the show? I don't know. Probably not. If Nintendo gave me a way to pick up the Bowser's Fury thing for like $20 on its own, like I would definitely, if given the option to not pick up Super Mario 3D World and only pick up the Bowser's Fury part, I would have gone that route. But they didn't give me that option. Would I complain? Like, if you have never played Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U, then absolutely, this game is awesome, and you definitely need to pick it up. It's really, really cool. I do hope that the multiplayer is worth the. I hope that the online multiplayer works well. The couch co-op multiplayer works fine, of course. I remember playing a whole bunch of it on the Wii U. The last thing about multiplayers that I'll say is if you have somebody else to play with, they can also play as Bowser Jr. and assist you. Now, nobody in the house was really interested in trying that out. Like my wife was busy doing stuff. My niece really only plays Animal Crossing, and my son was like, "I'm playing something with my friends right now, Dad. Sorry." And I was like, "All right, that's fine. I gotta record the show anyway." So if I get a chance to play that mode, I'll obviously talk about it on a future episode of Nintendo Switchcraft. Let's move on. I want to talk about Nintendo announced some titles for the NES and Super NES portion of your Nintendo Switch Online. That would be on the Super NES. That would be Doomsday Warrior, Psycho Dream, Prehistoric Man, and then on the NES, Fire and Ice. Now, of these, Doomsday Warrior looked interesting to me. It looked almost like a side-scrolling brawler, but I get the feeling it's more of a fighting game. So I haven't played it. It comes out on the 17th, so it's still 4 days away from the time that I'm recording this. Actually, by the time this episode comes out, I'm looking at a calendar right now. By the time this episode actually comes out on YouTube, it will come out on Monday. On the podcast version will come out on Tuesday, and so it would be tomorrow, if you're listening to this on the podcast, that these games come out. Doomsday Warrior looks pretty cool. Not going to lie about that. I anticipate that it looks cool, but probably doesn't hold up, or I would have heard about it at some point, I think. Fire and Ice on the NES, I've never played. Don't think I've ever heard of, but I remember seeing it. I remember when I saw the trailer, it very much reminded me of Solomon's Quest on the NES, which I always tried and was very confused by. This one seems very puzzly and confusing, but also very cool, especially if you have the ability to do the save states or rewind when you make a stupid mistake. I can see Fire and Ice being actually pretty fun. Then there's Prehistoric Man, which is a side-scrolling platformer kind of game. Doesn't look interesting to me at all. I do remember seeing pictures of Prehistoric Man in EGM back in the day, or maybe it was Nintendo Power. I can't remember. I remember seeing it and thinking, I like the art style, but I was too busy playing other things at the time. So Nintendo, I feel like they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to Super NES and NES games. I really wish that they would take some money, and because they've got lots of money, they've sold a lot of Nintendo Switches. I wish they would take some of that money that they've been making and go to these third-party publishers and say, hey, can we please publish your game on the on Nintendo Switch Online? Like, that would be fantastic. I would love to see, games like, Chrono Trigger. Everybody always talks about Chrono Trigger. I've never spent much time with Chrono Trigger, and sure, I have other ways to play it, but I want to play it on my Switch. That's the place that I would really, really like to play it. And so, Nintendo, I really wish that you would take a big bag of money and go talk to Square Enix as well as other publishers and just say, hey, let us put your game on the Nintendo Switch. We'll give you the money for it. All right. It would be amazing. All right, let's move on to the Taiwan Digital Game Rating Committee, which is basically the Taiwanese version of the ESRB, or the European. They have PEGI, and I guess Taiwan has the Taiwan Digital Game Rating Committee. They recently leaked some games that are supposedly on their way to the Nintendo Switch. Now, some of these we had heard rumors of being on their way already. That would be the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. This was leaked when I guess Capcom was hacked a little bit ago, and that information was leaked that it was on the way to the Nintendo Switch. Now that the Taiwan Digital Game Rating Committee is leaking this, that it's on the way, that pretty much confirms everything that we heard about in that Capcom leak. So I think that that's very interesting. Other games that have been leaked by the Taiwan Digital Game Rating Committee would be Tales from the Borderlands on the Nintendo Switch. 2K did announce that it was bringing this Borderlands game on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, but they did not mention the Nintendo Switch. Well, Taiwan said, we're going to go ahead and talk about it anyway. And then there's also Secret Neighbor, which is a game that takes place in the Hello Neighbor universe. Not a huge surprise. The people behind the Hello Neighbor games seem to want to put their games on everything anyway. So that doesn't surprise anybody at all. And then one that I had never heard of, which actually got really, really good ratings. Like I saw the leak and I looked it up on YouTube, and people were giving this game very, very high praise. Now, it is not a game that I am interested in even a little bit. Not even a little. I'm not interested in this game at all. But it got very high praise, and so I think it's great to have it on the Nintendo Switch, even though I'm not going to pick it up. And that is Snow Runner. Snow Runner looks like an off-road driving game, not like a racing game, but like you're driving like an 18-wheeler and the roads are terrible and you have to like make it up this hill. That does not appeal to me even a little, but it got very, very high ratings, and everybody who played it seemed to think that it was really fantastic. So it's getting really good reception. So Snow Runner possibly coming to the Nintendo Switch. So just to recap, we've got the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I kind of glossed over that because I've never played an Ace Attorney game. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about the Ace Attorney games. And so the fact that that one is coming to the Nintendo Switch, as well as I guess PS4 and PC, that's big news for a lot of people. I just don't happen to be one of them. Then there's Tales from the Borderlands, Secret Neighbor, and Snow Runner. So here's my big question to you. If you have played Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, what are your thoughts? If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, let me know in a comment down below. Are you interested in any of the games that Nintendo announced for the SNES or NES? And tell me which ones. And then finally, of the 4 games that were leaked by the Taiwan Digital Games Rating Committee, that would be Ace Attorney, Tales from the Borderlands, Secret Neighbor, and Snow Runner. Are you interested in any of those games, and why? That's it for this episode of Nintendo Switchcraft. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.